Hello. How are
Good
you guys
morning.
doing today? Good morning or good
Morning
evening.
or afternoon.
Good evening. This
Right,
is going to
wherever
show in the
you
evening.
are.
Good evening. We're live.
Right. Thank you guys for joining us today. For anyone who's watching, I'm Desirae Jones. I am the Director of Programming, PR, and Marketing for Capital City Black Film Festival. This is our 8th annual festival, and we are hosting the Elevate Your Profile discussion with Miss Carolyn Pitt of Connx and Mr. Martin Jones of Austin Film Society. Welcome today.
Good morning.
Hello,
Good
and thanks for
afternoon. Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you guys for coming. I wanted to just kind of kick it off with just us introducing ourselves and just telling us a little bit more about who you are and what brought you here today. So can we start with you, Carolyn?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I am Carolyn Pitt. I'm the founder and CEO of Connx. We are the job marketplace for production. And so what that means is that we make it much easier for crew to elevate their brand and find work, and for producers and studios to actually find crew that they want to hire locally for the productions that they're shooting. We're based in Atlanta, which is the busiest production hub in the world.
Awesome. And please introduce yourself, Martin.
Hi, my name is Martin Jones, and I am a recovering producer and studio executive from many, many years. Studios in Los Angeles and in Virginia with Tim Reed back in the late 90s, New Millennium Studios, as well as former CEO of Metro East in Portland, Oregon, and now studio director at Austin Studios here in Austin, Texas, which is operated by the Austin Film Society. So I actually just got here a year ago yesterday. Little did I know
Wow.
the world was going to change completely after relocating.
Mm-hmm.
I did live in Texas 10 years ago when I was running television for TD Jakes in Dallas. So all over the country in the industry, officially since college and, making films since I picked up a movie camera when I was 10 years old. So a lot of war stories.
Oh my goodness. So what brought you to Austin?
The Film Society, running the studio.
Mhm.
So we have the great privilege of having 7 sound stages on a 20-acre lot. And it used to be the Austin airport 20 years ago when that airport in the central part of the city closed and it moved to its current location. Our artistic director, Richard Linklater, the great American auteur, went to the mayor and said, hey, those empty hangars should be turned into sound stages. And so that's what they did. It was a very quick deal, and we've been here for 20 years. And our next door neighbor is Robert Rodriguez at Troublemaker Studios, also part of that same complex. And in the 20 years, this great, as you know, Desirae, you're in Austin, Mueller developed and is now a whole entire live, work, play concept. It's fully built out almost. And so
Mhm.
we're right in the heart of all that.
So it's really interesting, Martin, and I didn't even plan to get into this, but once you started to kind of talk about your background and then what you're doing now with Austin Studios, like I don't think people see Austin and connected with film the same way they see Austin and connected with music. Like, like what? So when you were approached with this opportunity, did you think the same thing, or were you aware that Austin had this growing market?
Very much aware of Austin and the market, and Richard Linklater and the Film Society, and I had been to finally made it to South by Southwest in 2018, and that's when I sort of said on Austin, because when I lived in Texas before, I think the only other time I'd been to Austin was in like around 2006, 2007. I was like, oh, it's a nice town. But I didn't know much about it then. But when I came to South by Southwest, I was like, okay, I get it. Entertainment, be it live music, film, gaming, technology, all those intersections and crossroads sort of meeting at South by Southwest. And it was like, okay, this is a really exciting market. And
Awesome.
it doesn't have the fever pitch and heft of Atlanta. If I was wearing a hat this morning, I'd take my hat off to ATL. But it is definitely, I think, one of the strong film hubs in the country, and we really are proud of our place in what we call the Texas film ecosystem.
And no, so that's actually a really great segue into Atlanta. And Carolyn, being based in Atlanta, did you look at the marketplace in Atlanta and decide like Atlanta is growing, growing, growing as it relates to film production? This is where the need is. Like, how did you come up with Film Connx, and like what inspired you to kind of go down this path?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So my background, I'm an IP and entertainment attorney. I've also worked in management consulting, strategy, and business development work, and have always been connected to film and TV in some way, whether it was taking courses, writing content, and having friends and clients who are in the industry. And I kept hearing time and again the challenge that they had, seasoned in their craft, couldn't find work. And it didn't seem to make sense because we're in Atlanta. And as you said, we are, booming. We are the most busy production hub that there is. And that's, largely because of a lot of different factors, including our fantastic tax credit. So it didn't make sense. And I thought, well, maybe this is just a fluke. I'm going to go to some of these industry meetings and see if this comes up, see if I hear it. Every single organizational meeting that I went to, whether it was a union meeting, just an affiliate meeting, a WIFTA meeting, the first topic was, why can't we find work? How do we figure out ways to get local people working on productions before they come to town? And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna be the one to solve this problem. And just like Austin, Atlanta is a vibrant tech hub. We have a lot of tech professionals here. And so although my background is law, I decided to immerse myself, did the research, did the customer discovery, assembled a team and put together a platform. And it's interesting. Our goal is definitely not only to make sure that local crew members and production hubs like here in Georgia and there in Austin have work and get to work on the productions that are filming in their hometowns. We're also very intentional about leveling the playing field for people of color and for women who are severely underrepresented needlessly in the industry. So making it easier for them to elevate their brands and for producers and studios to find them and hire them into roles above the line, below the line, in front of and behind the camera.
No, that's great. And so as you are thinking, so, the Film Connx is out there and it's available for anyone to be involved, or is it, is it subscription only? Like how it, like, so for someone on the outside who's trying to break into the industry, how do they get involved with Film Connx?
So at this time, it is free for people to join who are crew members. We know how challenging it is to find work. There shouldn't be an additional barrier for you to be able to elevate your profile and make connections and find opportunities. And so you can go to filmconnx.com. You can apply to jobs. You can create a profile so that we can keep track of how your progress is growing. With experienced professionals, we're able to actually make connections for them with studios and producers. And for emerging folks, they can still create profiles and apply to opportunities. Because there are opportunities for gateway chances to get a chance to work in the industry. And what we want to do is be a conduit for that. We want to make it easier, take away the barriers for folks to find each other, to network, hire and be hired. And it's especially important for professionals of color. And that's because there are 2 times as many white professionals as there are professionals of color in the industry. It shouldn't be that way. We know that it's a who you know sort of industry. That's great. Let's make sure we expand it so that everyone gets a chance to participate equally.
Absolutely. And Martin, as as the studio director for Austin Studios, do you guys have a challenge with finding talent, or have there been any barriers?
Well, I think the challenge, as in probably most industries, is either the entry level or the career leap, right? So you have the entry level person, the person that maybe is just new to the industry, typically maybe just out of film school, but could be an older, professional or someone transitioning into the industry looking for that gateway or entree. And then you have the person who has been doing this for a while and she is ready to, get to the primary goal of, being that above the line person. They have plenty of work and maybe a sustainable lifestyle from, gigging on different crews, but really want to hunker down and, be that, screenwriter or producer or director. We're not a studio in the traditional sense where we're making and producing and financing content. Mm-hmm. We're running a facility that we market to bring those that are doing that in to the area and either nurture people who are based in Texas or who are coming here for any given number of reasons. So one of the things that we do is we have a really vibrant intern program that unfortunately got sidelined because of COVID. But out of that program, people are making, major entree into the industry. Some of them, we're still a relatively small organization. We had 35 full-time employees. We lost a few people with, COVID and some reduction in force that we had to do. But people have started at AFS as interns. Some of those roles have turned into full-time or part-time jobs. And people have sort of come in and out of AFS during their career. And one of our sort of really great examples of that is one of our board members who is executive vice president for Robert Rodriguez's El Rey network, Cecilia Conti, started as an intern, became an employee, helped launch the Texas Film Awards, which is a signature fundraising piece for us, worked full-time, left, and has now come back and is on our board of directors. So that's the ultimate success story to have, that kind of journey. The place that we help people, the main way we help people to make career leaps is the revenue that we bring in from our different divisions. We have grants for filmmaker support. So we have 2 grant cycles throughout the year. One is for short films and one is for feature films. And so that's where we're getting, money into the hands of filmmakers, and really proud to say that the programming team was able to even increase the amount of money that went out to filmmakers this year in the time of COVID. So that's where we're mainly helping people, I think. But as far as people developing projects, they're not going to bring it to me and I have financing to make it yet, so a little bit different.
And so what we know is that there's several entry points into the industry. It doesn't matter, whether you're, just interested and don't really have any credits or anything like that, or you've actually done some work, but you want to try to do something else. So it's like, some of the most talented people in the industry have credits as directors, producers, and actors, and like they run the gamut. And so what I feel is that Film Connx really makes that Film Connx really creates an opportunity for people of all stages in their career to be able to access different jobs, right? So tell me about some of the people who would find Film Connx to be a resource for them. Like what type of jobs are they looking for?
Yeah, so we actually have jobs on there all the way from a PA up to someone looking for a producer or director for content. And during this time of COVID, people have asked for Zoom content. So, can you assist us in finding a producer or director who can do this over Zoom and help the individual film themselves with correct lighting, staging, and all the rest of that. We've also had people who have requested crews to come out, smaller crews to shoot from a respectable and safe distance. And then of course, here in Georgia, we're up to more than 40 productions that are shooting feature films, TV shows, et cetera. So it has run the gamut in terms of the level of experience and the type of talent and the type of skill that they're looking for. So it's exciting because we know on the other end of COVID, there's going to be a rush. There's a lot of content that's being written and has been written. The writers are still able to keep writing. And space is going to become an issue, as well as talent, making sure that there's enough space to create the content and enough people there to actually produce the work.
No, and that's really interesting.
Blessed to be, we're fully occupied. Our all 7 stages are rented out, and we're in a bubble. 2 major bubbles, and there's testing. We even have a new tenant that has a COVID lab on our studio site, a rapid lab, and people from other productions that are shooting at other studios even come to our public parking lot, get swab tested, and get their results within the hour before they report to work at another studio or location around town. So it's really cool to see the resilience and the resourcefulness of the industry. But we're very fortunate to be in that scenario. And shooting on sound stages is at a premium right now. At one point, we had 5 productions trying to get our last set of stages. And, you know, I'm glad that the one that prevailed is the reboot of Walker, Texas Ranger Walker, with starring Jared Padalecki, who just finished doing Supernatural for 16 years. And he lives in Austin, but had been commuting to Vancouver to do this show. And he
Oh, wow.
told the network they wanted to keep working with him, and he said, "I want to sleep in my own bed." So that's how.
And he's from Austin?
He's not from Austin.
He lives in Austin.
He's from Texas, but he lives here. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
He's from closer to San Antonio. So it's fun to see. I mean, this happens all the time in Atlanta, you know, tons of stars and writer directors, you know, like Tyler Perry and others, you know, live there,
Right.
have a house there. And, you know, that's what
because I mean, let's just be real. In Atlanta, you can ball out. Like if you have $1 million home, oh, it's like crazy. But if you go to Los Angeles or somewhere else, it's like $1 million home is just an apartment. You know. So Atlanta has its benefits, and one of them is cost of living. But you both brought up a really good point that I wanted to highlight, and you were talking about how you're going to expect like a spike in production once COVID kind of gets under control. And then, you know, Martin, you're like, well, production is still happening. And I wanted to say, you know, we thought that first we didn't expect to get as many films because it's COVID and people aren't really doing production. And then we just thought it would be less interest because everybody is kind of like, look, come on, you know, like you want us to submit to a film festival in the middle of COVID that's virtual, but the appetite is still there and people are figuring out all kinds of workarounds, and a lot of them filmed during COVID. Like they literally, you know, there's one documentary where a guy was in South Africa and he did a short documentary about them delivering lunches and delivering lunches to the local residents because South Africa was like shut down completely during COVID. Like they had one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. And so it's like a lot of them, you know, captured the racial injustice and the uprisings. You know, all of this stuff happened during COVID. So I'm like, oh, okay, so y'all still out here filming. You know, like y'all are figuring it out. And so the appetite, you know, like you said, Martin, is still there. People are figuring out workarounds. And even Anthony Anderson, our ambassador this year, one of his colleagues said it's very strict on set, like in big Hollywood productions. And so he was just basically saying, like, as soon as you finish with your scene, you have an escort that takes you to this place, and you don't do anything, you don't interact with anyone, you can't have your cell phone, they have your cell phone locked away and secured, any packages that you get have to be sanitized. So for the film industry as a whole, like things are different, but it is really inspiring to see a workaround because you know how many people are impacted. And Carolyn, you can probably even speak to the numbers, you know, as far as like how many people are involved and reliant on the film industry.
Oh, yeah.
Even here in Georgia.
No, absolutely. No, it's, I'm trying to think of the exact number. I want to say it's 200,000 that are impacted in one way or another in the Atlanta metro and extended areas. And of course, it's not just those crew who are working on the film, but the vendors who are providing services, transportation, you know, alligator wrangling, craft services, tutoring, you know, it's a whole vibrant ecosystem that has reached to a halt. So it is inspiring to see the bubbles that have occurred, like with Tyler Perry, and they're in Austin, apparently, Martin, with your group. As well as people that have just found really creative ways to create the zones, to bring in the COVID testing, to have all the PPE, and you know the show must go on. And they figured out a way to still create vibrant and engaging content. And we're starving for new content.
Right.
So we're looking forward to seeing what's produced. What's also exciting is some of the shows that are now showing the time of COVID as a part of their story. Some of the TV shows, you know, Grey's Anatomy comes to mind. Seeing folks in masks, and it's instantly more relatable because that's what we're living through today.
That's what we're dealing with, right? So let's talk a little bit more about filmmakers and not just filmmakers, you know, giggers, people who are doing different roles in the film industry. And what we always try to provide is to be a resource for those individuals who are talented, but not necessarily savvy. And the one thing that I think, the one reason why I thought Film Connx was so important is because this actually gives people an opportunity to elevate their profile, because you can be creating all of this work and a lot of people are posting it on their social channels and things like that, but there's limited resources to kind of showcase their work to audiences that actually could get them booked for the next gig.
That's
And
right.
so I wanted to ask you, Martin, like, have you ever found, like, when you're looking at, Black filmmakers or Black talent that are, working with Austin Studios, do you ever find that there may be a lag in like the presentation of their work? While like it may be a good project, but they need to do this and that to make it more presentable and to make it presentable and attractive to someone who may be interested. Do you find that has been an issue?
Well, let me remove myself from Austin Studios per se and answering that question, because again, we're not traditionally, looking
Right.
to pitch projects to us that we then, funding or financing. But sort of wearing my producer hat, which, I always have nearby, when I first moved here a year ago, in addition to, all the film folks that I was meeting, very well established, like Richard Linklater and other people like that. And my sort of personal life, just going and learning the city and getting out and about, I kept meeting these Black women filmmakers, and I was like, okay. And after a minute, it was like I was up to like 6 or 7, and I was like, what is in the water in Austin, Texas, that it's just this, I didn't meet any brothers. I met sisters that were doing it, like, writing, directing, producing, being featured on Issa Rae's short films on Short Film Sundays. And so it got to a point where I met this group, and I was inviting people over to the studio that either hadn't been in a long time. And what was born right in time for COVID was this new community. And I was telling a friend that I did a lot of advertising work with, said, man, I don't know what's in Austin, but I keep meeting these Black film geniuses. And he's like, that's it, man. That's the name of your group. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I formed something called Black Film Geniuses. You can check it out.
That was not in your bio, Martin.
I know.
That was not in your bio.
I know, I got to update that. But blackfilmgeniuses.com, you can see these amazing women. And in the time of COVID, we meet by Zoom every Friday. And we decided to develop a feature film anthology with the theme of Black erasure, and there will be Black people in the future. And so we now have a feature script made up of like 8 short films, and we're getting ready to have a table read in January. And the goal is to find the funding and produce it here in Austin in 2021.
Okay,
So
that is awesome.
that's where I came into this amazing community. And what I was able to do for them was open up my Rolodex. Like, well, who do you all want to talk to? And they wanted to meet showrunners. So, my former business partner, co-exec produced 172 episodes of Law and Order Special Victims Unit, Black woman, Judy McCreary, dear friend, my kid's godmother. Judy's our first guest. And so Stephen Adams, who's produced several specials with Spike Lee on Netflix, represents talent like Roger Gamber Smith. So brought these people in and their connects. Jay Jameson, my former assistant who worked on my last movie I did in Dallas, was my driver/assistant. And he's now writing for Superman and Lois, also on the CW, working for mega TV producer Greg Berlanti as a staff writer on his first position. So he's like, I just got in and hired. So these people have been imparting into them. And so I got to a point by midsummer, it was like, okay, let's pause on the special guest. We're going to do our own thing. And so I get to sort of just be this curator and advisor, and I can't wait to introduce them to Film Connx, so that, they can have profiles there. Carolyn, I assume it's nationwide, right? It's not just Atlanta or worldwide.
Yeah, so it is nationwide at this point, focusing domestically, especially on production hubs. And one of the great things is for the folks that are in your group and everyone else, they can profile their IMDb links, their sizzle reels, really bring to life the work that they've done, who they've worked with. And so, yeah, we look forward to meeting them and learning more about the great work. I love the name too.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
I was like, again, I was just riffing. I said, I don't know where all these Black film geniuses are coming from. He's like, dude, that's it. You know.
That was my next question for you, Martin. Like, if you could look back maybe 10 years ago, like it was a completely different marketplace, or like the opportunities didn't seem as vast for Black people in the industry. Like, so can you talk a little bit about the shift that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, the shift has been interesting in multiple phases. I've been, doing this for a few decades now, so I have an interesting perspective. And for me, my career, thinking about when I first moved to Los Angeles at age 22, 19, whatever. I'll let my baby. I don't want to betray my baby face here, but I was benefiting from disruption almost every step of the way in my career, from, the disruption of home media with Super 8 cameras as a kid and filming that. And then the advent of VHS and video stores and, more avenues for content, and then DVDs. And so all of those changes, I was seeing the industry be in turmoil, but I was like, having opportunities. I worked at a company in the mailroom, the proverbial mailroom in Hollywood. And that company existed because of home video, because of VHS. And that company made a little movie called Dirty Dancing. And, I was at the test screening for Dirty Dancing in Sherman Oaks, when the first people in the world got to see it. And literally this company blew up overnight. And I went from working in the mailroom to being the assistant to the head of production.
I feel like we just opened the vault and we just Martin is like bringing out all the classics.
I think that's why, things like Film Connx are so important, and film festivals like Capital City Black Film Festival being resilient and pivoting to this virtual space and keeping the show going. Because now you have the ability to make an amazing piece of content in your pocket. I mean, I tell young people, if I had this thing in 19 whatever,
now we're gonna have to blur the logo.
I know.
Right. No, I'm joking.
But before these things came along, it was massive amount of work to make content. And the fact that you can make it, create it, have a certain amount of actually, pretty good production value, and then put it onto the internet and available to the world. I mean, that's amazing. Probably the most powerful short film that was shot in 2020, unfortunately, was the death of George Floyd. But the courage of that young woman who documented that and really helped cement a moment in the world, that was citizen journalism, wittingly or unwittingly. That's what happened. And so I think the thing that I like to tell young filmmakers is, you have all this technology, use it to your advantage, but at the same time, several of the largest fortunes in entertainment were created with this little thing here. Tyler Perry did his plays. George Lucas wrote the first Star Wars on legal pads. J.K. Rowling wrote, Harry Potter on welfare. I mean, don't lose sight of this. Don't lose sight of the technology. And if you put those two together and the intentionality, and then use this to connect, like what Carolyn is doing, it's pretty potent. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities for the people that may be watching this that they don't see.
Absolutely. And Carolyn, like, I refer to Film Connx as like the LinkedIn for creatives, because you can see creatives using LinkedIn, but you also see that like, I look at it and I'm like, no, this isn't the place. But then
Yeah.
where is the place? And look, you've created Film Connx. So how do you feel that Film Connx addresses the issues impacting Blacks in the industry that are trying to break in? Because you talk about this kind of being not necessarily a full solution, but this is kind of a way to help help productions to make sure that they're reaching Black creatives.
Yeah, and so to your first point, you're right. We found out that although LinkedIn is a great tool for corporate America, most creatives run in the opposite direction. It doesn't allow them to be as expressive as they want to be. And so although we are like the LinkedIn, we are actually kind of anti that as well, because the goal is to enable people to really show what you've done and where you're going in a way that really fits your creative background. And as for what we're doing, we are really intentionally making it easier for producers and studios to hire women, Black folks, folks of color. What's interesting is because of the murder of George Floyd, people suddenly started thinking about inequities and how can we hire people, you know, who are of African descent? What is it that we can do? And what we saw in the marketplace is people trying to rig the system and post jobs that were, you know, looking just for diverse talent. And while that shouldn't be a problem, there were some in the industry that felt that was a problem because they were in the middle of COVID and there are people who are not of color who also want work. And so what we saw people attempting to do using Facebook and using other existing tools wasn't quite the right fit because there are people who felt that it was, you know, the reverse of providing opportunity. While we don't agree with that, what we do at Film Connx is make it easier to actually find the diverse talent. Yes, you can find talent of all backgrounds, and that's the goal of Film Connx. And you can also intentionally hire women and people of color. You can reach out to us and be able to find a cadre of very talented people who haven't had the opportunities and who can bring authenticity to the role, who can diversify the crew, you know, both above and below the line, and help the aesthetic of the product be even more robust because of who's working on it behind the scenes.
No, absolutely. I think what I find to be interesting is if there's an issue, like we know it's a critical issue, we can't all lives matter it, you know, like we have to really say this is an issue and this is something that we need to address and make a concerted effort to do so. So if I am a student, you know, if I'm a studio and I'm getting ready to start a production on a film, how do I work with Film Connx and how do you help studios identify the talent? Because I'm sorry, the point that I wanted to make before that was oftentimes we feel uncomfortable classifying who we are, you know, like saying our telling in our profiles that we're African American or we're a woman or so forth and so on, because it's been, we would feel like it has been used as a tool to discriminate against us. And how do you think that Film Connx it's the opposite with Film Connx?
Yeah, we're disrupting that notion entirely. Tell us who you are, regardless. Tell us if you are a person of color, if you're a woman, if you're disabled. We want to know those things. That means you're bringing something to this story that perhaps someone else may not. And believe it or not, there are producers and studios who would love to have a way to find folks who bring this authentic narrative and folks who are local. So there are people who've reached out and said, we really would love to find Black women directors in Atlanta to help us with this story because it's key to what we're telling. And we don't know how to do that. And to that, we respond, we can help you with that. Because everyone that applies and creates a profile, we're capturing that demographic data because we want to know who's working in production hubs and also boost local economic workforce development so that municipalities can know who is working in our cities and how can we make sure that more local folks and more women and more folks of color actually have a chance to participate in this ecosystem. So to that, I would just say that's part of the very reason why we're here.
And I think the one thing that we probably talked about a while ago, which Martin may even be relevant for Texas as well, is like the tax credit. Like we saw that there was, you know, this skyrocketing of production happening in Georgia, but how do we hold those production companies and studios accountable for making sure that they're leveraging local talent? And I think Film Connx is a solution to that. But Martin, doesn't Texas have a tax credit as well?
It does. Georgia is very hard to compete with. They
No, we're like
got
giving it away.
they got the proverbial memo, I think, amongst legislators, their legislators, and not to say that ours haven't. They've been supporting it, but they put a major stake in the ground in Georgia, and it's paid off exponentially, to the development of not only studios but career opportunities there. A lot of states look at incentives, in different ways, in short-term sprints. Like here, our legislature, looks at it every 2 years. So we're up again, this current upcoming legislative season in the winter, right after New Year's. And so hopefully when they see the thousands of jobs that have been created and just the economic impact of over $30 million in the last fiscal year just from the productions based at our studio, not to mention Robert Rodriguez's and ATX Film Studios, where Fear of the Walking Dead is based. When you look at the whole big picture, there's a huge impact. The cool thing about us as a nonprofit is that we work with filmmakers across the state, right? So we've funded filmmakers based in El Paso, most recently, Eagles Pass, Dallas. We connect with like the Denton Black Film Festival. We've worked with Black Public Media and story writing conferences in Houston. And so we're sort of a pan Texas, organization, even though we're based here, looking to develop talent statewide. And in a state as big as Texas, it can be challenging for a legislator in far West Texas to understand the impact of the incentive when they don't necessarily see their constituents working on film and television. But here we have a film, a reboot of Walker, and even though they're just calling it Walker, most people immediately know that it's Texas Ranger, and it's like the Texas Ranger ethos is a part of it. And that takes the Texas brand a far internationally. And so Atlanta has seen that, and people shoot films in Atlanta for Atlanta. It started off where people were like shooting Atlanta for New York, and now it's just like, no, we're in Atlanta. We're and so it's cool to see that happening for different regions. But it is hats off to Georgia. I mean, they've really seen what can happen for the industry in their area and the positive impact, because these productions are like super tourists. They spend a lot of money. There's a huge multiplier effect, and they don't have as big an impact on the local resources because they spend this money and they leave.
And not only that,
and then you have the people who live there and who are sustained and have the house and have the property tax and have their kids in the school. So it's like a wonderful balance. And so, the places that have really embraced it, California, Georgia, Louisiana, New York and New Mexico, have really, really seen it for the long term. And I think Texas is getting there. And I'm excited that in this next session, we have, another Texas icon, at the forefront. I think it's going to help.
Absolutely. But Carolyn, what were you going to say about the local hiring?
Yeah, I was going to say most folks don't realize that up to 70% of the people working on the productions that are coming in, especially for feature films and network shows, are brought in. So if up to 70% are coming in from LA and New York, that only leaves 30% for local talent. And that seems incredibly lopsided, and there are ways that we can address that. And to your point, Martin, a lot of states have lucrative tax credits. However, not all of them have a resident, non-resident quota or requirement. And so that really impacts the talented crew that are living and working in these hubs. And in Atlanta, and I should say Georgia's case, because it's the entire state, ironically, a lot of people end up moving here from LA and New York because of the opportunities. And they may be a little better networked to be able to find out and become a part of crews before they're fully crewed up. But oftentimes they suffer from the same challenge of, now that I'm here, I'm no longer hearing about something that's coming, because very often the crew are being imported along with the rest of the production.
Absolutely. And so, Carolyn, you have a filmmaker that has written this amazing script. They're gonna self-direct it. They come to Film Connx, and what do you have to offer them?
Yeah, so what we have to offer them is crew of every potential background. So if you need someone to come in PA, if you need someone who can be your line producer, if you need a COVID compliance professional to be on set, or a medic, and in some cases, if you need pop-up testing, we can partner with folks to provide that depending on where you are and when your need happens to be. So really, it's the opportunity for them to find the talent that they need locally, and to not have to spend the money to fly them in. And that's another thing I should mention, is that the average amount of money that's being spent per crew member per month is over $6,300 for per diem travel and housing, on top of wages. So if they want to find an incredible local
That's per person.
Per person and save over $6,300 a month per person, then come and check us out. We'd love to talk to you and help you to find the exact right fit for the roles that you're looking to fill.
And you've also partnered with some organizations to kind of flood your Film Connx with talent, and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So happy to share that we are partnered with Georgia Production Partnership here in Georgia, also with Black Women Film Network. We also just announced a partnership with Sony. So there are a number of other partnerships that we are slowly starting to put out on the airwaves, and exclusive opportunities with studios that we're partnering with are also a part of how we'll be announcing partnerships in the coming days and months.
Absolutely. And so for filmmakers who are looking to build their crew, Film Connx has an amazing, vast group of talent that's nationwide. And for talented individuals who want to showcase their work and present it to potential productions, Film Connx seems like the place to go. The one thing that I wanted to just kind of encapsulate in this conversation is that Film Connx was created by a Black woman to address a specific need. So this is here on this date, December 5th. So you did it first, okay? You came in and you addressed the need, and we are rallying behind you. And we are going to make sure that all of our filmmakers and those interested in really growing their career have access to Film Connx and can really, really build with that. And so if you guys use it and you register, definitely register and use hashtag CCBFF 2020 so that we can know that you went to Film Connx and you created your profile. Actually, that's your homework assignment. Everybody watching, y'all need to complete your Film Connx profile, visit the site, see what it has to offer, and hit us up if you need any other resources, because we're here for you. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Thank you so much, Martin. Did you guys have anything that you wanted to say final for anyone that's watching?
One thing I'll add, and thank you again for having me and for sharing more about what we are bringing to bear and what is already out there in the marketplace. I should share the spelling. I'm not sure if that will be at the bottom of my name, but just in case, it's FILMCONNX.com. And if you are someone who is aspiring to be in the industry, have not yet had that gateway opportunity, if you go to filmconnx.com/film-job, you will find a video that was created by CB Dahl-Smith, who is a Black camera woman and DP in Oakland, and she's providing tips of how you can actually get into the industry, a number of ways that you can enter. And you can also check out the rest of the site while you're there and create your profile.
And I think we're going to upload that to tag to the end of this video so that they can see that, because I think it's a great resource. And what about you, Martin? Any final words?
Yes, if you're in Austin, please be a member of Austin Film Society. You can connect with us at austinfilm.org, austinfilm.org. And we have a great gateway for people who live here. And now, because of COVID, we have people taking advantage of our classes at Austin Public, which is our community media division. We have people from all over the country. We had a guy from Russia in one of our classes that I was auditing. It was amazing. It's like, in real time. So this is a place where people can, become members at a very, very low cost, get access to high-end brand new equipment and 2 studios here in Austin in the 6 square area of town over near Houston-Tillotson University. And that's a great place to start your career. Richard Linklater started there. Robert Rodriguez started there. Some other notable people in the media started there who are based here. You can come to our cinema when it reopens, AFS Cinema. And when you're ready to either work on a crew or have a place to shoot your film, of course, call us at Austin Studios. But yeah, thanks for having us. It's great to be with you all today, and honored to be with Carolyn. Very proud of what you're doing and looking forward to sending people your way. I'll set up my profile too.
Awesome.
So happy to have you. Thank you guys. Carolyn, how can people find Film Connx on social?
Yep. Check us out on Instagram and on Twitter at Film Connx. And you can also check us out on LinkedIn and Facebook using Film Connx at the end of those URL strings.
Martin, Austin Film Society, what's your social?
At Austin Film.
Yeah, at Austin Film.
Instagram,
oh, you guys got in there early.
Oh yeah.
And have that up. That's great. All right. Well, you can find us at Cap City BFF on all platforms. And please share your experience using hashtag CCBFF 2020. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Have a great festival. Thank you, Desirae.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm C.B. Smith-Dahl. I'm a director and camerawoman based in Oakland, California. And I thought I would talk to you a little bit today about breaking into the business. And by the business, I mean film, television, and streaming. There are a couple different paths into the business. If you ask 20 people, you'll probably get 20 different stories about how they made their way in. Some of those stories are going to be through friends and family. And if you have friends and family, or maybe it's somebody you went to school with or somebody you used to work with who's in the business, don't hesitate to approach them. Talk to them about how they got in and what you would like to do, and see if they can make an introduction for you. Word of mouth is always the best resume. The second way that you might think about getting into the business is through film school. And, there are several that are famous: USC, NYU, Howard, UCLA, Columbia. And those can be one way in. But I'd also encourage you to look at both your local community colleges and also any local programs designed to increase diversity in the film business. So in New York, you have Ghetto Film School. In Los Angeles, you have Inner City Filmmakers, among many, many others. It can be an option if you have the resources or are able to get a scholarship to go to one of those big name universities. But I always discourage people from taking on a bunch of debt, because income in this business is unpredictable, and it can be very stressful to be staring down at student loans. Many of the same professors who teach at the elite programs also teach at your local community college, and many amazing filmmakers have come out of places like LACC, Los Angeles City College. And so consider those as well. Another path into filmmaking or television or streaming, is to look for a local group. You might find them on a social media site, you might find them on a bulletin board at a community center, but all over the country there are folks who are coming together to make projects for fun, for the love of it. And some of those projects do eventually get acquired and turn into deals. But even if they don't, it gives you an opportunity to meet more people, to network with them, and to also gain the skills of the trade. So let's say, for example, that you're really interested in wardrobe, in working in the department that decides what clothes people will wear. Maybe you even have some seamstress experience. And so you can work with a local film group, taking secondhand clothes and adapting them and making something incredible and futuristic with a $500 budget. that you guys crowdfund together. Then that becomes part of your portfolio, part of your sample work that you can present to sort of move your way up in the business. Also, you get known among that group of people as somebody who works miracles with fabric and thread, and as they progress in their careers, they'll recommend you to other folks. I think one thing I should mention here is that there are many different versions of the business. Some folks are really interested in becoming famous. They want to be the next Spike Lee or Ava DuVernay, and that's a path in the film business. But some folks, they just want to do the work, and that's okay too. It's amazing how, as the technology has become affordable, more and more businesses, government agencies, schools are doing video production, are making films and telling stories and creating really compelling content. And so Hollywood and New York are not the only paths anymore. You can actually have a really wonderful, fulfilling career in the business, in creating content that is done on a smaller scale and not inside some of the big studio systems. Having said that, another great way to break into the business is to use a website like Connx. Not only do you have the opportunity to present the experience you have so far, but you can also start to see what other people are hiring for. You can look at job descriptions and start to understand, I've worked as a production assistant on these 2 television shows that were for Netflix that came to my town, and I'm really, really interested in working in the grip and electric department, and I can start to see those job listings and what experience they look for. 2 more ways that you can find a way into the business. One is to work at a rental house, to actually get a job, cleaning equipment, prepping it, sending it out to film productions. It will also give you good references. And another way is to actually approach productions when they come to your town. So maybe you're eating at a restaurant with some friends and you notice that the restaurant has a mobile vehicle and they're prepping meals to go to a movie set that happens to be in town. They actually work as a caterer for local shows. Or shows that come to you locally. And you can approach the kitchen and say, look, I would love to work with you guys. I'm really interested in catering, and I will come volunteer for you on a movie set, serving the food, so that you can see what my work ethic is. Not everyone's going to take you up on that opportunity, but do know that there is a tradition in the film business of people working for free. When I first started in Atlanta and LA 25 years ago, it was not uncommon for people to volunteer on productions for anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, to build a reputation, to build a collection of experiences and work and skills. Fortunately, there's less of that now, because it really is a gatekeeping that happens when people are expected to volunteer for that amount of time. It's not financially feasible for a lot of people. And so there is less of that happening now. But I've always encouraged people to think about what makes sense for you and your family. Does it make sense to go volunteer for a weekend? Does it make sense to go volunteer on a whole show for 4 weeks? It can be an entry into the film business, but you have to figure out what makes sense for you, make only that commitment and stick to it. And just know that your work ethic, once people see it, your ability to bring value to the team will carry you far. No matter what way you choose to find an entry into the film business, you have a bright future ahead of you. I believe in you, and I'm excited for you.